Welcome to the final video of this course. I hope spending time learning the Tahara ritual was meaningful and expanded your perspective on the Jewish notion of purity. I find it incredibly moving that in the same way we tenderly wash and dress a child at birth, so too we tenderly wash and dress a mate as they depart this world. There are some funeral homes that have a mikveh for immersing the dead, as opposed to pouring the 9 kavim of water over them. Individuals immerse in mikveh waters during their lifetime to mark their transformation from one way of being to another, from being single to being married, from being pregnant to being a parent, from being a non-Jew to being a Jew. So the purpose of the water in Tahara, whether a mate is fully immersed in a mikveh or immersed in 9 kavim of water, is to transition the person from here to there, from embodied life to life as an eternal spirit. We now turn to our 4th and final unit of this course, which discusses how we can embrace the rituals of Kvod HaMet as they are, but also explore how we might evolve them to meet the changing needs of the Jewish community today. To introduce this last part, I want to share a story about the Hevrei Kaddisha I helped to start in Los Angeles. Within a year after developing a team of shomrim and beginning to train people to do tahara, our community experienced one of the most unthinkable losses. A beloved family in the congregation, a mother and father, a daughter and son, were driving out of LA to spend a weekend in the desert. They pulled off to get gas, and their car was struck by a drunk driver. The mother and father were badly injured, but their beautiful teenage children, Ruby and Hart, died. This tragedy shook our community to its very core. Tidal waves of grief enveloped everyone who knew or had some connection to the family. We were in a collective state of shock and the most intense grief. When I first heard the news, I happened to be in Chicago, but immediately got on the phone with members of our new Hevrei Kaddisha. We quickly organized shiva, food, and seating for what we knew would be hundreds of people who would want to offer their presence and comfort the bereaved parents. We arranged for round-the-clock shomrim, even scheduling shmirah ruchanit, shmirah from a distance, while Ruby and Hart were still being transported by helicopter. Our team had only ever performed a handful of taharot, but people quickly volunteered to do the taharot for Ruby and for Hart. People were desperate to do something, anything, and they were grateful to be given concrete tasks, no matter how menial, to show their love. A number of people who had never once performed shmirah came in 2s and 3s to the funeral home to sit by Ruby and Hart. Some people recited psalms, but there were some who felt psalms didn't make sense in this case. They wondered, what would Ruby and Hart, 2 teenage children, want right now? What would help them to feel safe and comforted? Some volunteers scanned their bookshelves at home and decided to bring children's stories, young adult novels, nursery rhymes. They read aloud to Ruby and Hart and sang them lullabies. They poured out their hearts spontaneously on these beautiful, precious, unrepeatable souls. This profound act of chesed not only touched the bereaved parents, but it also touched the people in our community who needed a way to channel their own grief and shock into kindness and love. This is just one example of how a Hevrei Kaddisha evolved or added to the traditional customs of Kvod HaMet in order to live out its values even more fully. In this final session of our course, we will explore various ways Hevrei Kaddisha are evolving to meet the needs of Jewish communities today. I thank you for joining me in this course. If you've made it to this point, I commend you for your spiritual strength and courage encountering these texts and ideas and discussing them openly with your chavruta. I hope that you have not only gained a deeper understanding of our rich tradition, but that this material moves you to continue learning and to find some way to engage in this sacred work of chesed shel emet. May you be blessed with health and strength, and with a daily awareness of the gift and beauty of life, and may you continue to draw wisdom from our tradition and to live a life devoted to Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim.